Donald Trump will remain on the Illinois primary ballot. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled unanimously and sided with the former president that Colorado could not kick him off the ballot.
Illinois Capitol Bureau Chief Max Cotton reports.
What happened today is the U.S. Supreme Court resolved this.
Donald Trump will be on the Illinois Republican primary ballot this year. Monday, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled states cannot remove him for violating Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, the Constitution's insurrection clause, unless Congress acts first.
Today's ruling doesn't really change anything for Illinois. Donald Trump has been on the ballot in Illinois since our board certified him to the ballot.
After the board certified him, a group of citizens filed a challenge to the former president's candidacy. The board rejected the challenge, and the challengers then sued to have him removed. Last week, a Cook County judge ruled him ineligible for the ballot, but stayed the order as the case worked its way through the courts. Though the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling Monday was prompted by a similar challenge in Colorado, it applies to all states, meaning the challenge in Illinois is officially over. Dietrich says, regardless of their personal opinions, a ruling more than 2 weeks before Illinois' primary is welcome news to election officials across the state.
It's good for them to know that this matter is settled once and for all.
One person who welcomes Trump to the ballot, Governor Pritzker. He says the decision on Trump's eligibility was up to the courts. And now that they've made their decision, the Democratic governor welcomes the challenge of his party facing Trump at the polls.
We will beat him at the ballot box. We're going to win here in Illinois and beat Donald Trump. And I think I said yesterday or the day before, I think it will help Democrats that he's on the ballot.
Illinois Republican Party Chair Don Tracy released a statement following Monday's ruling, saying previous decisions to remove Trump were made by activist judges and unelected bureaucrats pursuing their own partisan agenda. He added, the decision is a victory for voters who will be able to decide who represents them in the White House. In Springfield, Max Cotton, WGEM News.